Hi, I'm Grace Lynch. This is part 4. So, I'm not sure that any of this kind of stuff makes sense to anyone else. Uh, it's a very strange situation. If I had had any form of trauma care that had helped me, I would have gone to it in a heartbeat. Um, I had my faith life so that I wasn't alone, um, but and I would have rather opted out of dealing with any of the traumatic experiences. I could not. When I tried to genuinely do anything else, I kept getting re-traumatized all the time. Not only would I be triggered, but I'd encounter a world that would take for granted that it could identify part of what I struggle with and help that part, and assume that I could translate that back into, somebody could help my trauma part, somebody could help my autistic part, somebody could help my TBI part, and then I would know how to bring that back into my life and sort of reintegrate it, not knowing that my brain doesn't and cannot work that way. But every time I try to engage with the world inside these contexts, I would believe that I'm on the right track, and then I'd hit some part of it that did not match how my brain actually worked. And what I would find was that in that place, the other people would know how to help me, and I wouldn't understand what had missed, and and my sense of safety in the understanding that I had taken for granted I'd gotten would collapse and it'd go all the way back down to the foundation again. So I did not get any kind of get out of jail free card about trauma, dealing with trauma, just because there wasn't a narrativistic perspective on it. Similarly, my recovery required me to figure out how to make peace with my day without turning back to my recreational chemistry or any other addictive things. If I wanted to live at peace with the world, I had to actually reckon with codependence. Um, and 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 whenever I found that and then I had to confront older attitudes I had about that I had developed about traditional recovery and realize that they didn't work for me. A social addiction did not seem to me to be what I actually struggled with. A problem with drugs or alcohol that affected my social thing or uh, ran a car into a bridge abutment or cost a job did not seem the same thing as the problem that required the 12 steps to me because I heard lots of people that would do those things and I had done them and I continued to exist. Um, it was not for me to say that 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 how do I say this? I don't know how to say it. I did not have agency around doing anything that actually resolved my situation as long as I framed my addiction, my need to recover, as something out there in the world. The same way that I didn't get peace with my trauma as long as I framed it in terms of what happened to me. I found that I had to be at the intersection where the world changed me and I had to survive what actually happened. That, for me, when I found that inside that experience, how I actually responded to experience had become one that, from a foundation level, turns to recreational chemistry, then I knew that I had a problem that was beyond my understanding. I had become alcoholic and addicted, not because of something that I understood, but because of something stronger than my understanding. When I was honest with myself, there was some kind of response that I had that led me back to that. And then, since by the time I noticed the responses in the past, I can't change the past. So then I could look at it at least and begin to learn it. Like when I didn't understand how I could be such a person with that response, either to trauma or to addiction, then I realized that my understanding of myself, life, world, the universe, everything must be out of alignment with what actually, it can't be true because if it was true, like mathematically, or logically, if I have true premises, they lead to true conclusions. If I have premises that lead to false conclusions, I know that my premise must have been false as well. So, regardless of how attached I was to my understanding of myself and my situation, when I saw that my greatest powers of controlling my behavior, my thinking, my belief, and my understanding did not track this thing beyond my understanding that led me back to recreational chemistry. I had to question the narrative. I had to get out of that mode, decide I just like whatever it is, it doesn't actually work. And then my choice was to ask myself, well, what is the case? If my understanding of myself, my situation regarding trauma or addiction doesn't actually lead me to a peaceful life where I'm getting less and less triggerings and where I'm having more and more peace without resorting to recreational chemistry, the ability to take life on life's terms, then that's the Houston, we have a problem. It doesn't matter how attached I am to the traditional understandings. It matters that the best of my ability to use the traditional understandings does not actually translate into an effective way of life. I'm the only one who can face the fact that my understanding doesn't fit, doesn't work. And if I'm willing to stand in that place and face it, I found it's as difficult as it had been conceding to my innermost self that I was alcoholic. It was not an ego-flattering proposition because it meant that I would have to give myself to a self-exploration and a re-understanding of everything, listening to the reality of what actually happens instead of what I thought about it, not knowing how it would resolve, not knowing if it would lead me back to an ability to talk at meetings, not knowing if it would lead me to an ability to experience life without as many frequent triggerings. The only reason that I was able to explore it at all, though, was that I tried and tested every other way and found again and again and again slamming and landing in that terrible place of having to re-understand everything. Wake up in the morning and have to lay there for half an hour to re-understand my body, that my body is called my body, that the body I have now is similar to the body I had last night, that I'm the same person, that the past actually happened, and get up and remember numbers, and come out into my apartment and sort out that this is still my apartment, sort out that this is not the same as the last apartment, and on and on and on. And so it was the relentless cycle of trying the traditional ways as best I could understand them, to apply them to my experience, and experiencing them fail in both trauma and addiction, that drove me to explore a new way. But I consider it a miracle, an accidental discovery that I could use my trauma journey to outgrow my social understanding of recovery, so that I had a way to explore recovery whether or not I had anyone else who could relate to the experiences, because life required me to be sober. If I wanted to be sober, even if nobody else could understand the experiences, I didn't know of other autistic people in recovery at that time, and I still had to figure out how to live a sober life. I had to figure out how to live a sober life in a way that allowed me to make peace with this trauma stuff that kept right on happening, without any hope of getting a treatment paradigm or any treatment structure for it. There were no support groups. There was no community for that kind of approach to trauma. Similarly, there was no support groups or professionals to help me with this mode of recovery. And yet my life required me to do both all the time anyway. So that's what's been driving this. And I have come to find, I have a lot of peace with it now, and it has yielded an unexpected gift. And I find it a great honor. I would not have expected it. In working with others, I find that I have come to find and come to believe that I do not have certain factors in my life that set me apart from everybody else. Now, I see that I have individual factors in my life that are individual manifestations of what make me just like everybody else. And I have come to believe that anybody, when they reach a part in their life where certain experiences in them and they have to embrace to make peace with themselves, require them to engage a new relationship with their authenticity, they can feel a threat that doing that will challenge how they've showed up socially, and they'll be at a crisis. And in that place, they may be stuck, or they may not believe that there is a way. They may not believe that there's anything in them that knows how to navigate that wilderness. And in that place, I found that my higher power did not leave me alone. And part of my motivation sharing these videos is to give such a person who relates to that specific problem a sense that this is how I did it, and maybe they can have hope that they can find their way as well. So those are the four. I hope it wasn't too much of a mess.